Some stories aren't whispered anymore. Some truths, no matter how painful, demand to be spoken. On May 13th, 2025, Cassie Ventura, R&B singer, mother, survivor, took the witness stand in a federal courtroom and let the world into the private hell she lived in for over a decade. She wasn't just testifying, she was reclaiming her voice. And in that courtroom, beneath the eyes of the law and the weight of truth, she delivered one of the most heartbreaking confessions the music industry has ever heard. Cassie met Sean Diddy Combs when she was only 19, bright-eyed, talented. She believed she was stepping into her future, fame, fortune, music. But what started as opportunity turned into obedience. She testified that he slowly chipped away at her freedom, controlling how she dressed, what she ate, who she could talk to, and who she couldn't. It wasn't love. It was ownership. She said she became a puppet in the hands of a man who wore power like a weapon. They called them freak-offs, parties drenched in drugs, escorts, and humiliation. Cassie was ordered to plan them, attend them, and perform in them. She spoke, trembling, about how she'd have to endure encounters that lasted for days, and if she objected, he'd remind her who was in control, sometimes with fists, sometimes with threats, but always with fear. She said there were times she wanted to disappear, but where could she go? Every hotel, every flight, every room, he controlled it all, even her silence. The abuse wasn't hidden. In 2016, hotel security footage captured Diddy assaulting Cassie, dragging her down a hallway, kicking her while she was on the floor. She told the court he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head if I was down. The jurors watched that tape in silence. But for Cassie, reliving it wasn't new. She had seen that scene play out in different forms, in different rooms, too many times to count. Sometimes she'd look in the mirror and not recognize herself. Not the bruises, not the pain, but the woman who had once dreamed of making music, now reduced to surviving. She spoke about one of the worst nights. A night he made her drink urine. A night he forced male escorts to do the same. A night that stripped her of dignity, self-worth, humanity. She said she sat in the shower afterward for hours, trying to wash off shame that no water could remove. Her voice cracked as she recalled it, but she never stopped speaking, because some wounds have waited too long to be acknowledged. He filmed it all, not just the freak-offs, but the pain, the breakdowns, the silence. He kept the videos locked, like secrets, but they weren't secrets to her. They were weapons. Cassie said he'd use those tapes to remind her, "You are mine. You will always be mine." And in the courtroom, she admitted something that shattered every illusion. She feared for her life every single day. Today, Cassie is 8 months pregnant. She stood in that courtroom not just for herself, but for her unborn child, for the girl she used to be, and for every woman who's been silenced by power, fear, or shame. She cried. She shook. But she stood, because her silence was no longer his to keep. What Cassie Ventura did was not easy. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't scripted. It was raw, it was painful, but it was necessary. The trial continues, more will be revealed, but Cassie already won something that can't be taken back. Her voice.
Shocking and disturbing details. His former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, took the stand, and she is a central witness for the prosecution. Ventura says Diddy introduced the idea of these freak-offs within the first year of their relationship. That's where he would hire an escort and set her up to have intercourse with them while Diddy watched. The defense argues these were voluntary relationships. Ventura also claims that their arguments would be so violent they'd result in some sort of physical abuse. This trial is expected to last roughly 8 weeks.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant. head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs.
What was Sean's reaction when he saw Cassie enter the courtroom?
You know, attorneys say that this is the first time that they've met since 2018 when she attended the funeral for Kim Porter, which is the mother of Sean Combs' 3 children. So to watch Sean Combs watching her was really interesting because they haven't seen each other in at least 6 years. But he can't say anything. You know, this is a moment for him where he has to be silent. And right now we're hearing what she says in terms of what happened during the course of their over 10-year relationship.
Is he showing any reaction to what she is saying on the stand?
I can tell you that immediately, the moment she opened her mouth, you could see that Combs was listening intently to everything that she has to say, as well as those jurors. People know that she was that star witness, the key person in all of this. When you think about that civil suit that came out in 2023, that was settled the day after. She really is the person that connects all the dots. When you look at the indictment and you look at some of the charges, she's the one talking about the freak-offs and what was involved and how she had to act. The prosecution is asking her questions to show that she wasn't in control. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced as well.
She's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs.
Earlier in the show that after being in court yesterday for the opening statements and the first couple witness testimonies, I think that Diddy could potentially get off. His legal team is really like that. Now, here's why. Number one, they were so good about changing the narrative around this Cassie video. Number two, they painted a good picture of Diddy being the aggressor, but an aggressor in an already aggressive situation. When it came to like the victim that is saying that he put his hands on her. So let's talk about the CNN video, the Cassie beating video. So they called a witness to the stand. This guy was one of the heads of security. So he was like second in command in security at the Intercontinental Hotel back in March of 2016.
So there was only 2 witnesses yesterday. The one you talked about earlier, which was the male escort, is the second. Okay.
Yeah, so actually the LAPD officer security guard was actually the first witness, but we talked about him out of order. But yes, only 2. So this guy was working at the Intercontinental Hotel. He's a security guy who actually responded when Cassie got on the phone in the lobby outside of the elevators and called for help.
The hallway, yep.
The hallway, right? So he said he got on the stand and the prosecutors are talking to him first. So this is the other side. So they're like asking him to run down what happened. So he said he got a report of a woman in distress on the 6th floor. He said he came up, and before he came up, he hadn't seen any of the footage. So he didn't know that it was like physically violent before that. But he said he came up and he was talking to Cassie and Diddy because they're going back and forth, and he's like, yo, y'all got to take this into y'all room. Y'all can't be out here doing all this. So he said as he was trying to get them back in the room, Cassie kept saying, I want to leave, I want to leave, I want to leave. And allegedly, Diddy was like, no, she's not going anywhere. So he said he had to step in. This is what he's telling prosecutors. He had to step in and be like, well, if she wants to leave, we're going to allow her to get her things and leave, and I'll walk y'all to the room to do it. So he says he walks them to the room. And when he gets to the room, he's able to see inside, and there's a man in dark clothing sitting on the bed, which is important, right? And I'm gonna tell y'all why. Because Cassie is alleging that the video that we saw was her trying to get away from one of those freak off situations that she did not want to be a part of. And because she didn't want to be a part of, everything we saw in that video was what happened.